I'd like to welcome everyone to the campus of West Virginia University Institute of Technology for the official ribbon cutting formal program for Congressman Rahall. In addition to the congressman and his family, I'd like to also thank Cucumber and Company and the Beckley Raleigh County Chamber of Commerce for their support and collaboration on today's event. First up, we have a welcome from the president of West Virginia University Institute of Technology, Dr. T. Ramon Stewart.
Well, certainly, good morning. Boy, it's a beautiful day. And, you know, as I was coming here today and I was thinking about the words to say, I oftentimes struggle with that, and I find my best inspiration in the shower. And usually in the shower, I take off and start singing a bit, but figure I wouldn't embarrass my mother or Judge Booker T. Stevens that gave her first job down in McDowell County. So, you know, but I could not help but think about the words from Louis Armstrong when he talked about seeing trees of green, when he talked about skies of blue. When we look around and see these beautiful flowers that was planted by the WVU Tech facilities team in bloom. And when I think about each one of you that are gathered here today for this auspicious occasion, I cannot help but say, what a wonderful world. You can clap for that. And see, when I think about this wonderful world, I think about how each one of us is blessed to live in the greatest country here on God's green earth. I think about how here in these United States of America, we stand together to fight against enemies, both foreign and domestic, who attempt to attack our freedoms. Sometimes our isms create voids between us, and sometimes our politics become politricks that play out in theater that we hear about on social media and fake news. But despite all of these things, ladies and gentlemen, the one thing that binds us together as Americans is our service and our love for our country. And so, ladies and gentlemen, today, go ahead. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we stand together to celebrate a true servant leader who loves his country. A man who stood on the shoulders of our forefathers, our founding fathers, for almost 40 years of service in Congress. A man who stood behind and beside the grieving families of Upper Big Branch and wiped away their tears. A man who stood in the deepest coal mines throughout West Virginia, who would always remind those here and in D.C. and beyond of how valuable coal is, even under those October skies. A man who stood on his Lebanese American roots to be a drum major for peace and freedom, even in the Middle East. And most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to celebrate a man who always remembered how those country roads should lead him home to the place where he belongs, and that's none other than West by God, Virginia. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to some and present to others the first congressman that I ever heard of growing up in the free state of McDowell County. And that's none other than Nicky Joe Rahall II. So, Congressman Rahall, on behalf of the faculty, staff, students, and alumni here at WVU Tech, we want to thank you for letting your light shine. We want to thank you for all that you have done, that you are doing, and that you will do. to make sure that our wild and wonderful West by God, Virginia, is one of the greatest places to live, work, and raise a family. So, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you on this day for this auspicious occasion as we celebrate a true patriot, a man that has stood for each one of us. And now it's time for us to stand and welcome him. Thank you.
If folks also want to make their way, there's additional seats available if they would like to. If they want to come down South Kanawha and find a seat, they're welcome to. Next up, we have greetings from the president of West Virginia University, Dr. E. Gordon Gee.
I just heard it, the Thundering Mountaineers. Here's my friend right here, the erstwhile president of Marshall University, showing up even when you're not invited. I can't believe it. It's just unbelievable. I feel like I'm being tracked here. We love it. Brad and I have become the closest of friends, and we call ourselves the Thundering Mountaineers. Universities United, and obviously the president of Concord is here, and thank you for being here. We're honored to have you here today. Give them a round of applause, would you please? And of course, I have our governor here, and I'm very proud to have served under our governor. Give him a round of applause, would you please? Now, you know the governor has another job, and that is the fact that he's a very good basketball coach, and I need one. Just saying, okay. I just want to make that note, okay. So, anyway, if you ever get tired of your day job, remember me, okay. So, and then of course I have my colleagues here, of course Senator Manchin, Congressman Miller. We are grateful to have you here. We're grateful for your service. I know this, as a matter of fact, our higher education in this state is doing very well at the moment, thanks to the leadership that we have from the governor's office, from the legislature, and certainly from those folks who represent us in Congress. So I'm grateful for that. You just heard from Ramon Stewart. He is a reticent young man. He can hardly say a damn word. We couldn't decide whether we're going to hire a president or a preacher. I think we got both here, as a matter of fact. So we're grateful for that. But today what we're doing is we're celebrating a very special person. Congressman Rahall was my congressman when I first became president of this university. And I can tell you that he represented every citizen in this state. There is not a West Virginian that didn't love and appreciate you, Congressman, and Nikki, if I can call you that, because of the fact that he is a bridge builder. You know, he did all of this kind of work in terms of making certain that our coal miners had access to great health care. All of the kinds of things that we needed to do to make certain that this state grew, because we're an energy state and we're still an energy state. And much of what we now enjoy as a great state with a real Renaissance story is due to the hard work of Congressman Rahall. So for that, we're grateful. But the real tribute that I want to give to our congressman is a very simple one. He's a bridge builder. And by that, I don't mean he built bridges, although he did a few of those, but he built bridges between people. There is never anyone that Nikki Joe Rahall met that he didn't remember their name, didn't say hello to them, didn't reach out to them, no matter what their politics were, no matter where they lived, no matter what they thought of him, he always thought great things of them. And that is a tribute that very few people can sustain in this country. So when he and I talked about the fact that he's had this tremendous opportunity to make a difference in West Virginia and in the country, we wanted to memorialize that. And that's exactly what we're doing today. We're memorializing this archive because of the fact that it is a history of West Virginia. It's a history of a state that has had its challenges. It's now a history of a state that is one of the most resilient and one of the most dynamic in the country. And for that, I'm grateful to be here. So, ladies and gentlemen, please know that it's a gift for me every day to be in West Virginia. and it's a gift to have so many of you here with us today. Everyone have a great day. Thank you.
And since we're here today to recognize the Congressional Archives on our campus, the WVU Libraries team has been working diligently with the Rahall family to get things prepared. So we do have remarks from Dean Diaz.
Good morning. How does a librarian get to share the stage with so many distinguished folks here? It's when you come to talk about an archive. I'm very happy to be here. Driving down here from Morgantown this morning, I noted that some of Congressman Rahall's greatest accomplishments are evident in the natural and scenic beauty of the rivers and recreation areas, now a part of the New River Gorge National Park, protected through years of his persistent advocacy and legislation. Congressman Rahall has indeed accomplished much for the people of West Virginia and the nation, as we have heard and will see reflected in the numerous materials on display at this house today and in the exhibit online. Before leaving Congress, he made an additional contribution to our state with the gift of his congressional archives, over 2,000 records boxes, to WVU Libraries West Virginia and Regional History Center, where it is part of the center's nationally recognized modern congressional and political papers collection. And I would like to take a moment to acknowledge our congressional archivist, Danielle Emmerling, who's over in the dress over there, black and white dress, and who's done a lot of work to help prepare for today. So thank you, Danielle. The archives document his long career in public service and the tireless work of his dedicated staff. They tell the stories of Southern West Virginia and its people, of public policy and the ways it shapes our lives and landscapes, and of the hard work of representative democracy. These records are part of the very fabric of our history and will be important to researchers and students of democracy for years to come. Congressman Rahall's archives will continue to serve as a living legacy, providing master lessons in leadership and diplomacy, building a bridge from the past, and inspiring our students to become the leaders of tomorrow. Thank you, Congressman.
Now it is my honor to introduce the Honorable Carol Miller of the U.S. House of Representatives.
Thank you, Jen. I mean, it is my honor to be here with all these wonderful presidents, governors, and friends. All of you understand that this is Congressman Rahall's home and the place that he loves. Our longest serving congressman, I never knew that I would be able to pick up his baton and move it forward, but it's such an honor for me. As a new bride of a West Virginian in 1973, I was welcomed to this state. He did me the courtesy being the daughter of a congressman from Ohio. But I love this state, and who would know that we also share very good friends and family with Frank Ross from Ashland, who grew up with my husband. But I think that says so much about our state. We are so connected in so many ways. And we all talk about wanting to live, work, and raise a family right here. And I'm thrilled that my grandkids only live a mile from my house. There are a lot of wonderful orators here today who are here to honor and praise Congressman Nick Rahall and all he's done and all he will continue to do. And so with that, I say God bless you all for being here. I'm just thrilled to be part of the scenery. Thank you.
It is my privilege to introduce Honorable Joe Manchin III of the United States Senate.
Well, let me just say, first of all, following President Stewart and as a preacher or president, and you got both, I guarantee you did. Also, to Dean Diaz, I appreciate very much being here. And I can say, Gordon, that I will also endorse Jim for basketball coach. And Carol, it's good to be with you too. Shelley couldn't be here today, and she sends her greetings. To everyone, Nick, Joe, first let me talk about Beckley. 1966, the first time I've ever been to Beckley, West Virginia. I was born in north central West Virginia, from a little town called Farmington, a little coal mining town. I met a beautiful little girl from Beckley. Her name was Gail. We met Gail Conley at that time, and I became introduced to all of her friends. And they're all sitting here. We got Rob and Barb and everybody went to school with, and the class reunions, did everything together. And I first came, and they said, that little building down there right across from Gail's house. Gail's house now is part of the campus, the house that I used to come visit all the time, and where we spent an awful lot of our time with our young children. But that little community, that little school right there was called Beckley College. And she points and says, now there's Beckley College. And I says, how many buildings? She says, that one building right there, that one building. That was Beckley College. And look what we are today. Look what tech is today. How it's really grown. Unbelievable. My first time meeting Nick Joe Rahall. Now here's 1966. So Nick would have been a junior in high school, correct? I'm right. Junior in high school. And Gail's cousin, Larry Lanning, was living with them here in Beckley. And Larry had a great radio voice and was great friends with Nick. So I come here. This is unbelievable. I come to this little, beautiful town, and I hear there's a station called WWNR. Now, who in the hell in 1966 at 17 years old has a radio station named after him? NR, Nick Rahall, WW Nick Rahall. And I'm thinking, my God, this is something. Then there's a radio show early in the morning. Then you had a night show too, teen show. Unbelievable. And I'm thinking, this is the kid, okay? Well, we followed his career. He didn't do too bad for himself after starting out in radio. His dear friend, Alan Mullahan, is here, Congressman Alan Mullahan, for years and years and years. And I want to say this. As governor of the state of West Virginia, I had the pleasure of serving this state, and it was a wonderful job, the best job I've ever had in public service. And the people I worked with as close as those two, Nick, Joe, and Alan, working together as a team, and really making things happen for all of West Virginia. It didn't matter where, Melinda, where part. Nick never said I was a Democrat or Republican. And I will say this. I look around. I have never seen this many Democrats or former Democrats in one gathering in 10 years. God almighty, where you been? You've been hiding. Anyway, there are so many good things that we can talk about. Nick, I just want you to know that I'm just honored to be here. There's a poem. My staff found a poem I want to read to you. It's basically, it's A Man in the Arena. It's from Teddy Roosevelt. Congressman Wise is here too, and Bob, being former governor, former congressman, and worked so close. And I want to tell you, he's still forging a path for education. I'm so grateful for that, Bob. Thank you for what you do. First of all, the man in the arena. It's not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where and the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, who faces is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives violently, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, or at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who either know victory nor defeat. Nick Joe Rahall has never been scared to fight for West Virginia. He's been there every step of the way. At every mine disaster we had, he was there. He understood the miners. He understood the families and what they were going through. He wasn't afraid of stepping to the plate, taking that swing, or getting on the line and facing the enemies head on. So the courage that he has is found for all of West Virginia. I greatly appreciate. And with that, I know, for the records, what we're doing today, I have another congressional record. If there's been any before, this is the most current congressional record honoring the legacy of Nick Rahall, and it'll be shared by all. So Nick, let me tell you on behalf, first of all, of a grateful nation, all you did for 38 years, the service you've given for 38 years. He was the youngest congressman ever elected. He served the longest from the state of West Virginia than any other person in Congress. And he continues to still service in so many ways that you would not even comprehend what Nick Doe is still doing for the country. But on behalf of a grateful state, more than that, Nick, thank you. God bless you for what you've done in your family, Melinda, the entire family, all of the kids, all of the grandkids, everybody that's been involved supporting you, because this is a family effort. It's a team effort too. And you have carried it and carried it well. Thank you, my dear friend. God bless all of you today.
I'm going to take just a moment of privilege to share some additional thank yous for the campus from our faculty, staff, and students. With those that have just spoken, we do want to recognize the support that we've received from Senators Manchin and Capito for their financial support related to an earmark for the renovations that are happening with the Department of Highways and Department of Transportation here along South Canal Street. And there's many, many folks, including alumni, who have been champions of that, along with our federal delegation. And we just wanted to say thank you, and we'd like to do a round of applause for them. Also, we just received some additional good news that there was a $1.5 million research project awarded to a collaborative project involving some of our faculty members here at Tech, and that was through the Appalachian Regional Commission. So we want to say a special thank you to ARC Federal Co-Chair Gail Manchin. We were happy to welcome Congresswoman Miller to campus a number of weeks ago, and we know that she continues to champion our students and our community and making sure that students in West Virginia have an opportunity at education and continued education. So thank you for your support, Congresswoman. And now, before I have the honor of introducing our governor, we also want to thank him for all of his support, taking time to meet with us and discuss projects related to WVU Tech, supporting our students and their opportunities for education, and we greatly appreciate that. We also had some little special treats for Baby Dog when we came to visit and from our culinary program, but we greatly appreciate your support, Governor Justice. And now it is my honor to introduce Honorable James Justice II, the Governor of the great state of West Virginia.
I wish y'all would please sit down. I mean, it's 10,000 degrees and y'all are out here in the hot sun and we're under the shade. I've got to say just this, if you coach long enough, and I've coached forever, and you look at this hair, you can tell that. But in all that, you try to tell your parents, your teams, and whatever like that, that I really do know what I'm doing. And this reminds me so much of just this. And I kept thinking, well, what is it that I'm really reminded of? Think about this. Paul Harvey said forever ago, when Ronald Reagan was in a real mess with the Iran-Contra deal and all that, they said for 7 years, the Democrats have been trying to convince the American people that Ronald Reagan didn't know what he's doing. Now, Ronald Reagan, they finally got Ronald Reagan right where they want. And what Ronald Reagan now, is telling the people is that really and truly that Paul Harvey is not telling the truth. Now, with all that being said, forever and a day, I've been trying to convince my teams and my parents and everything that I knew what I was doing. So thank you so much, President Gee and Senator Manchin. Now I've got credibility. Let me say this real quick, and then I'll be done. First of all, Nick Rahall has been a friend forever. And I've got so many, many stories. I've got a confession. And Nick, here it comes. I was with Bill Martin, and you knew Bill Martin really well. I was a ninth grader and asked to go with the varsity team, and we were on the way to somewhere, going down the turnpike. Bill was driving. I don't know exactly where, Coach Veneri was, but he was behind us, okay? And Nick said, I've got to pee. Now, and Nick got out of the car on the turnpike to pee. And Bill and all of us in the car left him. So please, please forgive me for that. I had no idea that you were on the way to this illustrious career, or we wouldn't have left you peeing over the guardrail. But nevertheless, Coach Veneri came along because we thought we'd go down the road a half a mile and turn around, and then we found out we couldn't turn around. And with all that being said, Coach Veneri picked him up, and we got in a lot of trouble about that. Let me tell you, if you just think just about this, Nick and I would say this to every last one of you. What on God's earth happened to you? All of y'all got old. And Nick and I look still really good. But with that said, think about growing up in this incredible town. Senator Manchin mentioned about Beckley College in Gale. Right down the road here, just nowhere, Leo Vasilio lived and walked many, many, many days down into Beckley to just get a paper. It was the perfect community. We had play clothes and we had school clothes. Kids didn't have any idea, of the level of the pressure that kids have today. We have a celebration right here of a career that was unbelievable. I mean, Nick, to look at this and think the Nick Rahall Congressional Archives and what you've done for this country and how you stood up and from standing up from the standpoint of a good man, a good family. I knew Nick's family really well. I knew his dad really, really well. And I absolutely thank you from the bottom of my heart for a friendship that will last forever. God bless each and every one of you. I'm sorry you're old, but nevertheless, God bless this great man, Nick Rahall. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Governor. Before we wrap up this portion of today's festivities, we do have a couple other recognition moments that we would like to take, as well as providing some announcements for what you'll need for the reception and the ribbon cutting. First, we would like to recognize any former or current local, state, or federal elected official who is in our presence today. Please stand. And we'd also like to recognize the staff and the support teams who work every day to support those elected officials. Please stand. So before we move down to the ribbon cutting, we do ask those who are presenters or speakers today, as well as members of the Rahall family, to go down for the ribbon cutting. We will have time for everyone to take a tour. We just ask for folks to join us in the reception in air conditioning with some refreshments. There's a photo area, and everyone that will be involved with the ribbon cutting will also be coming to the reception. So if you have an opportunity to join us for the reception and connect with those that are in attendance today, that would be wonderful. Those that are going down for the ribbon cutting, we are working with the Beckley Raleigh County Chamber of Commerce to do that ribbon cutting, and we will be stopping traffic for a couple minutes just to get that shot. And then those folks will come back to the reception on the second floor in this building. So there is an elevator inside. If you go in the lobby and kind of go around the bear to the left behind the bear, that's where the elevator is. And there's also stairs right inside the door. So please, after we conclude this portion, if you're not part of the ribbon cutting, please join us for the reception. And then the admissions team will be taking groups of folks from the reception over to the Rahall Archive House for a tour. We want to make sure that everyone who wishes to get a tour will have the opportunity to do so. With that, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Our person of honor, yes, and that's who's going to wrap up today, is Congressman Rahall. And we are so grateful that he is here and that we have his legacy to share with our students and the members of our community.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jen Wood. I appreciate all the work that you've done to put today together. And to those that have already spoken, I express my heartfelt appreciation for your kind words, and especially the time you've taken from your schedules to be here today. You know, we're all in political life famous for putting spin on what we do and what we say. Well, I'm going to try to put a little spin on my career and the ending thereof. To put the best political spin on it that I could come up with, when your friends, like about 77,713 of them, say it's time to start a new chapter in your life, then, you know, it's time you get the message. And that message really sank in immediately after my loss in November of 2014, when the superintendent, Alan Mollahan and Bob Wise, you'll know how quickly they act, come to my office literally the next day and ask for the keys. And then on top of that, they say, you got to be out by Thanksgiving. So you kind of are in a maze about what to do with over 2,000 boxes of your papers, rooms and rooms of memorabilia and trophies, etc. You have to move pretty fast. You have to figure out where you're going to put them. So I mentioned to my dear wife, Melinda, thank you, Melinda, for being here. My children, Suzanne, Rebecca, where's Rebecca? Oh, there you are, Rebecca. Okay. And, yeah, she's got to take pictures. And my son, Nick Joe III, where's he? Yeah, over there. And my granddaughter, Madison, my two other grandkids, Nick Joe IV and Eliana, are somewhere, I think, running around. But anyway, you know, I broached the idea to them that there's some extra room in our home here in Beckley. Can we store them there? Wow, was that a bad suggestion? Boy, there was an adamant. I mean, it was more than an adamant. It was, you leave if you store them here. So that didn't work. So I had some good friends around in the universities. Marshall University, Brad Smith. Actually, Gary White was the acting president back then. Where's Gary? He's around here somewhere. Started talking to me about storing my papers there. And I was about to do that until Gordon Gee got involved, President Gordon Gee. And he called and he said, Nick, you know, we're opening our new campus on your hometown, in your hometown, Beckley. I said, yes, President Gee, I know that. And he said, we'd like to offer you a house to store your congressional archives. I said, wow, President Gee, that's quite an offer, and I appreciate that. Let me go back to Marshall and let them know. And I went back to Gary White at that time and said, Gary, here's Gordon Gee's latest offer. There was silence at the end of the phone, a long silence. And he finally got back to me a week or two later and said, Nick, take Gordon Gee's offer. We can't beat it. And that's how I ended up on the campus here, West Virginia University Tech. And then earlier this year, its new president, Dr. T. Ramon Stewart, came to me and said, we got to do something in opening up your Congressional Archives House. We had a soft opening back in 2015 in which it was announced that I was going to go with WVU, but we decided we needed to do a hard opening. So that brought us to today's hard opening. And I really appreciate Dr. Ramon Stewart, not only his friendship, but his leadership here at West Virginia Tech. It's been superb. And I know that speaking of memories, we like to talk about the old war stories, and boy, could I tell some old war stories. I've told a lot to people already that have been in the house. But the last thing I want is to dwell on the past. You learn from history. History, you don't forget about it, but you learn, and you learn what worked, and you learn what didn't work. And that's what I want these archives to demonstrate to our youth. To my friends in higher education that are here, Brad Smith from Marshall University. A tremendous new view of Marshall. Thank you for your leadership. To Kendra Bogus from Concord University. Thank you for your friendship. And you'll see Concord. Ted Lewis from Bluefield State said he told me he was going to be here. I'm not sure he made it, but anyway, want to thank. Oh, okay, yeah, Ted, over there you are. Thank you. But the whole idea here is to bring all the universities in West Virginia together to work collaboratively and cooperatively for the future of our youth. And 1997 was my first year in the Congress. At that time, I was the youngest member of the 95th Congress, the Bicentennial Congress, so I guess I could be called the Bicentennial Kid. But in the ensuing years, in the ensuing decades, it has been tremendous honor to serve the people of Southern West Virginia and the people of West Virginia. It's an honor that is like none other. I've been proud of every day that I served. I could not ask for anything to be changed. The only thing that I say is to our youth that this is all about. Just don't let today's current demonizing of one another that exists in the political arena discourage you from getting involved, because we must engage our youth. We must inspire them to ask what they can do for our country. That's the first path I feel very strongly about for this archives house. The second is we must convince young and old alike to be bridge builders, that we can produce results, that bridge building rests on a foundation composed of civility and honesty. It's time that our leaders quit the name calling, quit demonizing one another. Our nation and free nations across the globe have enough enemies already without tearing ourselves down. And I must say also that we must make sure that our bridge piers are built of mutual trust. When it comes down to it, as Joe Manchin knows, as Carol Miller knows, as Jim Justice knows, it's all about your word. It's all about your word in politics. And your word is really your only bond when you share your support or opposition or willingness to discuss any issue. That must be paramount in politics today. And lastly, I hope that this third path that the legacy of this house will follow is that it's not about my legacy. It's about our legacy. Each of you here and countless thousands of others who have helped me throughout my career, who have helped West Virginia. We have truly built a teamwork. You know, one time I said our future is built on the 3 T's: transportation, technology, and tourism. Senator Byrd, our great senior senator, and my mentor, Robert C. Byrd, name on this library, he quickly added, and teamwork, our 4th T, Nick, teamwork, and how true that is. That's what it takes to make these projects come to fruition, working in a bipartisan manner, which I felt strongly, very strongly about, as Joe Manchin does, about working my entire career in that bipartisan manner. So to close, let me again thank so many. I know the staffs have been recognized, but so many, my former staff, please stand up. I know Kelly Dyke is supposed to be here. I see Vicki Bandy from here in Beckley. Vicki was with me 30 plus years, a Beckley gal. She was my executive assistant. Ann Adler is behind her. Diane Lunsman, my communications director. Matt Deerfield, Andrew Mollahan over there, and his wife Rachel, both of whom worked for me and met in my office, I think. But anyway, Robbie Queen from Logan County is here. I thank them as well. And I particularly want to thank people that have come from a distance. I see Peter Tanis from the American Task Force of Lebanon and Jay Gazelle here. And my Lebanese heritage has been mentioned, of which much of my family, my Auntie Lane, and all of her gang from Fayetteville are here. Her gang truly appreciate their support. And I see the mayor of Beckley here talking about friends, talking about longtime friends, Joe and Governor Justice, Rob Rappold, Bill Fowle, Robert Fowle, Rob's wife, Barbara. We all grew up together. We all, and the former mayor, the late Mayor Emmett Pugh, and I see former Mayor Bill O'Brien around. I see the former Mayor of Lewisburg, John Manchester here. But these Beckleyians, we grew up over on Woodlawn together. And yeah, I remember when this was Beckley College, and there was that one building, Dr. Stewart. I took typing lessons there. And you know what? I still have that typewriter. You'll see it. You'll see it over in the archives house. When it was just that one building. And so I appreciate so much. And you'll also see as you go in the New River Gorge, a national park and preserve. Thanks to bipartisan legislation of Senator Joe Manchin and Senator Shelley Moore Capito, using as a basis the groundwork we laid, working with Dave Arnold, working with Jeff Proctor, the Whitewater Rafting Outfitters, back in those days. And today, and very quickly, I hate to be going on and on, but just to show how bipartisanship was in those days, when we created the largest system of federally protected rivers east of Mississippi, and when we created the Golly rafting season with the Corps of Engineers back in 1988, President Reagan was threatening to veto our bill. Well, I went to a dear friend of his in McDowell County, a Republican, the only Republican in those days, Knox McConnell, the banker at the Bank of Keystone. I said, Knox, I know how close you are to Ronald Reagan. He's threatening to veto our bill. You know the support my bill has across the state of West Virginia, what it would mean to our future. Can you kind of work your strings at the White House and see what you can do? A couple of weeks later, Knox McConnell called me back and said, Nick, President Reagan's going to sign your bill. That was bipartisanship, if there ever was. And thanks to that, we have today the Golly rafting season. We have today the New River National Park and Preserve. Thank you. And there's everybody here was behind that effort as well. So I thank you, each of you, from the bottom of my heart. It's been a true honor serving, as Alan Mollahan and Bob Wise know, and I see Bishop Sims, and I see Judge Stevens from McDowell County. He knew Knox McConnell. Did you ever know Knox McConnell? But thank you all for being here. Thank you very much. God bless you. And please enjoy the refreshments afterwards. Thank you.